Song and Story World. Song and Story World.
Hello and welcome to Song and Story World. For this first series of episodes, we're presenting some of Aesop's fables. Aesop was a man who lived a long time ago and wrote stories which make people think as well as being fun. Have a listen and see what Aesop's stories might teach you.
We bring you some. We bring you some of Aesop's fables. Aesop's fables.
What time is it, Mr. Wolf? 10 o'clock. What time is it, Mr. Wolf? 11 o'clock. What time is it, Mr. Wolf? Time to eat you up. I bet you played that game when you were younger. Good fun, but a bit scary. There was once a boy called Dino. He lived a long time ago in a place far away, and he had a job nobody really has these days. He was a shepherd. Now, I know we do have shepherds these days, but in those days the shepherd had to stay with the sheep, all on his own, and guard the sheep from wolves and lions and bears. How would you like that job? No siree. And it wasn't just dangerous, it was boring. So boring. But he had to keep wide awake to spot any wolves, which was quite hard when there were so many sheep to count. He could easily drop off to sleep. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep. Oh, one day he was sitting on a rock, not very comfortable, and he was feeling a bit cheesed off. Well, he had been on the hillside for 3 days now with nothing to eat but cheese, so he really was fed up with it, and with being on his own, apart from a pile of old sheep. I don't mean the sheep were neatly stacked in a pile, of course. They were all over the place munching grass. I know what I'll do, thought Dino. If I shout loudly that there's a wolf trying to chomp the sheep, all the people in the village will come rushing up to scare it off. Brilliant, brilliant fun! And without more ado, that's what he did. At the top of his voice, "Wolf! Wolf! Help! Help!" Down in the village, things were busy with people cooking, washing, mending, or just busy doing nothing. The village band was practicing for a concert and, believe me, they certainly needed to practice. They were pretty crummy really, but they were having fun. When people heard the distant cry of "Wolf! Wolf!" they dropped everything. Unfortunately, the man playing the big bass drum dropped it on the fiddle player's foot, which was very painful. People just grabbed a big stick or something similar and left what they were doing. A pie in the oven, which was probably going to burn, socks floating down the river where an old lady had been washing them, no washing machines in those days of course, wet mortar to fix a hole in a wall which would no doubt turn lumpy very soon. What a shambles. Anyway, off they all hurtled, young, old, fat, skinny, tall, squirty, to help poor old Dino on the hillside as he faced a very gruesome beast. And we're not talking about Rupert, the mangy old cross-eyed sheep with the caked mud all over its soggy nose, but a big grey wolf. Dino could hardly keep himself from laughing as all the people from the village reached the top, puffing and panting. Where is it? Where is it?" they all shouted, looking frantically around. They felt very safe because there were so many of them. They were very safe, of course, because there was not, and never had been, any wolf. Fooled you!" shouted Dino as he burst out laughing. "There's no wolf!" You should have seen their faces. They were already quite pink because they were puffed out from climbing the hill, but now they turned scarlet. "You naughty, naughty boy," said the older ones. "Thanks a lot, Dino," said one young lad who was extra cross. He'd just been winning at hopscotch for the very first time. Dino just laughed. What could the villagers do? They just turned crossly around and headed off back home, glad it was now all downhill at least. They didn't even bring me some fresh cheese, thought Dino. How thoughtless and measly. What a little toad. And we're talking about Dino here, not the little speckled frog behind a nearby stone. The next day, Dino felt bored and lonely again. I know what I'll do, he thought. If it works once, it'll work twice. If I shout that there's a wolf trying to chomp the sheep, all the people in the village will come rushing up again to scare it off. Brilliant, brilliant fun. Again. And without more ado, that's what he did, at the top of his voice. "Wolf! Wolf! Help! Help!" Down in the village, things were busy. More cooking. The other pie was burnt, remember. Underpants to wash in the river. And much more mending mortar to mix and fix. When people heard the distant cry of "Wolf! Wolf!" they dropped everything. A bag of flour fell on the floor. Underpants floated off down the river. A spade fell on somebody's toe. And yet more mortar started to go lumpy. In the band, still practising and honestly not really getting any better, the flute stopped tootling, the fiddle stopped screeching, thank goodness for that, and the big bass drum, which had been giving everyone who heard it a headache, fell on the fiddle player's other toe this time. Off they all ran up the hill again to save Dino from the big grey wolf. Dino could hardly keep himself from laughing as all the people from the village reached the top, puffing and panting. In fact, he didn't keep himself from laughing. He laughed so long and hard that he ended up rolling on the floor. Quite near to a little speckled frog, actually, who could not see the joke at all. In fact, the last joke the frog had heard was, why did the frog go to the hospital? He needed a hopperation. A hopperation. Now that was something to laugh about. Get it, get it, get it, get it. That's frog laughter. The villagers were not in the least amused. "You naughty, naughty boy," said the older ones. "Thanks a lot, Dino," said one young lad, who was extra cross because he had been winning at chess for the very first time. Dino just laughed and said, "Fooled you!" He certainly had, for the second time. The next day, Dino again felt bored and lonely. I know what I'll do, he thought. If it works twice, it'll work thrice. That's a posh way of saying 3 times. If I shout that there's a wolf trying to chomp the sheep again, all the people in the village will come rushing up again to scare it off. Brilliant, brilliant fun. Again. And without more ado, that's what he did, at the top of his voice. "Wolf! Wolf! Help! Help!" Down in the village, things were busy. More cooking. 2 pies burnt now, remember. Stuff to wash in the river. Mortar to mend the hole in the wall, which was getting bigger than ever as time went on. They all heard Dino. They all heard his shouts for help. They all heard him saying that there was a big grey wolf, but they didn't believe a word. Once bitten, twice shy, as the saying goes. So they just carried on with their chores. Meanwhile, on the hillside, guess what? There was a wolf. A great, big, grey, hairy, scary wolf. And boy, did he look hungry. "Help! Help!" shouted Dino at the top of his voice. "A big, grey, hairy, scary wolf!" The people in the village heard, but they just said, "What a little toad. We don't believe a word of it," and carried on with their chores. The wolf just said, "Grrrr." and licked his slobbery grey lips. Fancy a little sheep, Mr. Wolf? That's a nice plump one over there, ever so scrummy looking. Turns out the wolf didn't like to eat sheep at all, but he just loved juicy, cheesy-flavoured shepherd boys, especially those called Dino. Whoops.
Here I am, out of town, on the hillside on my own. Not much fun, pretty boring, not much action, not much zing. Came from a village down below, it's a place I don't get to go. I think they're all mean to me, I'll get my own back, just you see. Here on the hilltop counting sheep, feeling ever so lonely, even see them in my sleep. And so I cry, wolf, wolf, on the hillside, wolf, wolf, hunting me, wolf, wolf, on the hill, and he wants me for tea. See them run, watch them come, my what fun, fooled you. My little plan worked a treat, scared the people really neat. Listen real close to my advice, what works once, gotta work twice. Next time that I was feeling low, I looked down to the town below. When I shout, just see the dust, watch them running up fit to bust. Here on the hilltop counting sheep, feeling ever so lonely, even see them in my sleep. And so I cry, wolf, wolf, on the hillside, wolf, wolf, hunting me, wolf, wolf, on the hill, and he wants me for tea. See them run, watch them come, my what fun, fooled you. One fine day I was out walking with the sheep, was a big grey thing. You can imagine my surprise, I looked into a big wolf's eyes. I said, Wolf, have you got the time? He said, sure, it's time to dine. I said, fish or a nice beef stew? He said, boy, I'm gonna eat you. Here on a hilltop counting sheep, feeling ever so lonely, even see them in my sleep. And so I cry, wolf, wolf, on the hillside, wolf, wolf, hunting me, wolf, wolf, on the hill, and he wants me for tea. No surprise, they got wise, shepherd's pie.
Look out for more Aesop songs and stories soon, and don't forget to tell your friends about this podcast. Thanks for listening.
Song and story.